bass. Welcome to another edition of Truth in Rhythm. This is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I am your host, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine. If you enjoy this programming, subscribe to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube, which is where Truth in Rhythm lives, and be an advocate by spreading the word among fellow funk, jazz, and R&B music lovers. Join Truth in Rhythm's membership program through Patreon. You can also submit a direct donation to the cause anytime at funkandstuff.net. At that site, you can also purchase the book Everything's on the One, The First Guide of Funk. Shop for official Truth in Rhythm and Funk and Stuff merchandise, and use the Amazon links for all of your online purchases, which allocates a percentage to this show. For those of you who go the extra step in supporting the show, you have my heartfelt gratitude for allowing us to continue to shine the light on those special artists whose quest is to find truth in rhythm.
I'm delighted to welcome to the Truth in Rhythm Mothership lead singer, guitarist, composer, and producer Michael Cooper, best known as a founding member of Confunction, one of the most successful and dazzling funk-R&B bands ever to do it. From 1977's number one R&B hit, Ffun, to 1986's number 8, Burnin Love, the seven-member Northern California group sent 10 albums into the top 25 and 17 singles into the top 40. Equally masterful at funk, captivating soul, and unforgettable ballads, other fantastic tracks included Confunkshunizeya, Chase Me, Too Tight, Got to Be Enough, Shake and Dance With Me, Let Me Put Love on Your Mind, Make It Last, Miss Got the Body, Baby I'm Hooked, and Love's Train, which more recently became a hit for Bruno Mars' act Soul Sonic. Fortunately for all of us, Confunction continues to perform, and during 2023 released a pair of new singles. Mike, thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm quite busy doing music and law enforcement and grandpa duties, so I am really rocking.
Well, I so appreciate you taking time out to do this, and fans will as well. So I know you have a busy schedule, so thank you again.
Oh yeah.
So Mike, tell us way back, what first drew you to music and why guitar?
Well, my dad pretty much inundated the house with big band music, and he actually was him and some of his friends actually formed a club, and they would bring some of the big bands to town as a promoter. And he had lots and lots and lots of records, and of course my sister joined in. She actually followed in there behind him, and I just started following her, just plain listening to music when I was 3 and 4 years old, and I became quite a little connoisseur of the different. I couldn't read the labels, but I could recognize them, and I rode my rocking horse and started my music career at around 3-4 years old, and never looked back. The first instrument I actually picked up was the guitar, the drums, and then the guitar came along from my cousin. She gave me about a 4-string guitar that I plucked around on, and I'd go down to the different music stores, and until they ran me out, I'd pick up guitars and play on them. So I got really serious with it around 9 or 10 years old. I got very serious with the music.
And who are some of your early heroes musically?
Oh, Wes Montgomery, Santana, Jimi Hendrix. Those three. Between Santana and Hendrix, that was the early stuff. And then my older brother, was a jazz guy, and he hit me to Wes Montgomery, and I started listening to Wes Montgomery, and I was hooked. I had to have the guitar, I had to have everything. Couldn't quite play yet, but I play like him, but I certainly set out to do just that. And I played lick after lick after lick on the guitar until I finally accomplished a song called Tequila. And then I went on to Bumping on Sunset. And when I learned those two guitars, and Santana released an album called Abraxas. And of course, I started learning licks from Santana. I actually got one of my first guitar gigs. It only consisted of one song at the Dixon Mayfair. And I wound up playing Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix uh, at the Dixon Mayfair with a band that needed a guitar player. And after I played that one song, I was fired. And I was terrible. And after that, I really woodshedded after that and started working on the guitar.
Who did you first see perform that just blew your mind?
James Brown. James Brown. My dad took me to see James Brown review at the Veterans Memorial Building in Vallejo, California. It was ridiculously unbelievable. I mean, the big band sound. Nobody knew James Brown played drums. He actually started his show off by playing drums to warm up the audience, and then he left and went back and changed clothes and came out as James Brown. So it was just, guy was phenomenal. And then when he came back the second time, he actually came out and walked the floor because the building was filling up kind of slow. He came out and shook some hands and everything, and I got a chance to meet him. And there I was, like, I think I was 12, and I'm standing there and shaking hands with James Brown. It was crazy. I was hooked.
Was that in Sacramento or Oakland, or where was it?
That was in Vallejo, California, actually, in my hometown.
Wow.
Yeah, it was right. Yeah, when he came to town, he hit Sacramento and Oakland, Vallejo, Richmond. It wasn't like he would tour the entire area, and then move on to another area and go, point to point to point to point. Later, as he became absolutely huge, then he would just appear in Oakland, and of course, at the Oakland Coliseum, and everybody's packed the Coliseum to see him. But when he was just getting started with some of the first, second, third hits of his, he was dropping in on the Chitlin circuit, as they call it.
Yeah. So you formed what was basically the nucleus of Confunction in high school, right? And at what point did you become Project Soul?
Well, it probably 11th grade. We did a little talent sort of a thing. They called it the senior breakfast, and anybody who had any kind of talent was invited to go in and just get in the cafeteria and sit down. They had a piano in the cafeteria, and you could sit down and do a song, or you could sit down and I had two people accompany me. I played piano. The one or two songs I could play on the piano, and we had a gentleman by the name of Carl Crosby sing lead. And we had another gentleman, Lewis McCall, played drums. So basically all we had was piano and drums. And we were playing Temptation songs. And the guy would sing them and I would play them on the piano. And we got quite a reception that morning. By that evening, we came up with the name because they wanted us to play again in the following week. And we came up with the name Project Soul. And we went back again the next week, and that's what solidified us as Project Soul. We started off as three guys, and then we picked up a guitar player. I was also a bass player. We picked up a guitar player, and probably by the end of the year, we had our keyboard player, Danny Thomas, and that was Project Soul. Yeah, four-piece rhythm section and a lead singer.
And at what point did you think, I think I can make this as a career?
Well, I was maybe a couple of years later. We never really, it was always, for a little gas money and type of thing. And it was just more fun than anything. And it wasn't until we really put the entire band together with horns and uniforms. And I'd say that was sometime around when I was 15, 16. I was driving So I had to be around 16 years old when we finally put together the entire band with three horns and the rhythm section. And we had a lead singer, another lead singer, Ed Bailey. And that's when we began to play the high school dances and things like that, and going all around one military base to another. And, we call ourselves, by then we were able to get a tank of gas here and there, and that made it sort of professional. And then one day, a guy that was managing us, who also owned a record shop, and over the record shop was an abandoned apartment. And we used to play in this apartment. We practiced in this apartment. And he spoke to Stax Records recording artists, the Soul Children, who were on their way out to the Bay Area. And they had a big fallout with their band. And there's no cell phones then. So the call went from them to their record company in Memphis saying the band refuses to play behind us. And the record company was familiar with Joe Connors at the time, who was our manager. He had a record shop, and they called Joe Connors. Joe Connors said, "I got a band right here." And the gig was in 2 days. So they sent their drummer over, our drummer. They didn't want to use our drummers. They sent their drummer, Roy Cunningham, over to conduct a rehearsal for the 3 songs that we needed to play. And talk about nervous. But I figured that we needed somebody with a little bit more music knowledge than ourselves. So I went and poached Felton from another band, from his band. I asked him to come and sit in with us with these 3 songs. So now we had a guru who knew all that there was to know about music. We had the ability, of course, to play these 3 songs. We wound up doing a phenomenal job, and they hired us right on the spot. We had to get ready within 3 to 4 days to jump in a rental car and a U-Haul trailer and head to Memphis, Tennessee as the new backup band for the Soul Children.
Wow. Had you ever been traveled at all before then?
No, just right around in the Bay Area. We had taken a road trip to LA. We rented 6 cars and went down and tried to get somebody to discover us. But other than that, no, we just played the Bay Area right around within a 50-mile radius.
Was that? I was just looking at and listening to actually a song credited to Project Soul in 1972, Ebony, instrumental.
Ebony, yeah.
Yeah, was that before or after that this happened?
I was before. No, we were. There was a guy named Lamont Bench. He had a recording studio. Lamont Bench is famous for the Edwin Hawkins singer's hit "Oh Happy Day," and Lamont Bench agreed to record us and just basically make us a record. And I think we made the recording, and he set up getting it put on vinyl. And I think we had about maybe 100 copies, and we just basically gave them away. We didn't try. We just, hey, we got a record out. Yeah, you got a record out, and here it is. We didn't do anything really big with nothing like that. But the name of the song, Ebony, I think we had a couple. I know Ebony was the first. Yeah.
About how old were you when you got with the project? The Soul Children situation.
Probably around 17, 18. I'd say around between 18 and 19. I turned 21 in Memphis, so I think it's more like around 18 or 19 when we hooked up the Soul Children, and we began to tour with them. And we were all like, I couldn't have been more than 20 years old. Cedric was, I think, 17. He had to get his mom and dad's permission to take him down there. So we everybody was under the age of under 21 when we started with Soul Children.
And how long after that was it when you played with, I think you backed Rufus Thomas at some point?
Yeah, that came right off the heels. As soon as we got our marching papers in 1972 with them, one of the first gigs that they secured was the Wat-Stax movie. and they put us on a plane. That was our first major plane trip. Put us on a plane and flew us out to LA. Prior to that, though, on their normal gigs, Rufus Thomas would drop in because he was hot as a firecracker with the breakdown and the funky chicken, and and those are songs we knew like the back of our hand. And he would drop in. There would be no money involved on a Soul Children show, and walk out on the stage in some ridiculous outfit and look at us, and we look at him. He said, y'all ready? We said, we're ready. He said, well, let's do the breakdown. Said, okay, we'll do the breakdown. And we play the song. He blow the audience away, and then he waved bye-bye. We don't know what kind of deal he made with the promoter to do that. And that happened about 3 times. And Soul Children got a little wise to it. And they just told him, I said, hey, you have to start paying to use our band. And so the last time it happened was, of course, the beginning of our backing him up on Wat-Stax. It was agreed that we'd back him up on the Funky Chicken and the Breakdown on the Wat-Stax concert. And the rest is history. After we did that, it was like, oh boy, here we go. We off to the races.
Wow. Did you have butterflies on that stage?
Butterflies was not the term. I am telling you, if you stand me in front of 102,000 people today, I will have butterflies. But we stood in front of 102,000 people inside the LA Coliseum. And that was a sight to behold. And now when I look at it, when you see the Wat-Stax movie, and when I look at it now, we don't really look that nervous, but we were frozen. We were frozen nervous. That kind of nervous, we were just frozen until Rufus came on stage. And Rufus knew he had a pretty good idea how nervous we were. And he turned around and looked at all of us. And he said, hey, fellas. And we went, yeah. He said, I said, hey, fellas. And we went, yeah. And then he said, y'all ready for it? And we went, yeah. He said, are y'all ready for it? Yeah. And we said, yeah. And you could feel him disarming those nerves. So, and then he looked at everybody and he said, well, here it is. Jot and duty, heat out and down. Bang. And we hit the breakdown. And once that audience heard us play that da-da-da-da, 100,000 people went bananas. We went, it was, the nerves were gone because we knew we had them. And that, when you watch that on Wat-Stax, it is probably the most electrifying feeling I've had in a long time. I wouldn't feel that good about the band and being in music again, probably until we actually went to Bruno Mars' show and watched him play Love Train.
Wow.
That's how happy. And that's really not correct. I think when we got signed to Mercury Records, that was an electrifying day, an electrifying event. When we actually knew, there's no cell phones and none of that stuff. We had to huddle around the phone and wait for it to ring. And it was unbelievable. We were riding high.
Did you have the name Confunction first, or get the record deal first with Mercury?
Well, the name Confunction came earlier first. Right after we did the Wat-Stax thing, and we started the touring with the Soul Children, we went into a studio called AD 73, like in 1973. AD 73 around, it's somewhere around 74 when we actually did that. And the guy told us, Ted Sturgis, he told us that you guys, I got some pretty good music, but you got to get rid of that name. That's not going to work. And we went home and we realized that we were sitting around in a circle trying to figure out a new name. And one of us suggested that, what about that group we saw in Sacramento when we played the Unity Festival? He said, oh, the Nightlighters. He said, well, we certainly can't take their name. He said, well, no. What about the song that they played at the pool? And everybody remembered them practicing a song on the horns out at the pool. And then later that night, they played the song. And they told the audience, they said, hey, we want to play for you our B-side of our hit record. And they said, but you got to be careful how we spell it. He said, we spell it Confunkshun, Confunction. And then they started to play the song. And we were done. We were toast. When we heard the entire song, we were blown away, you know. And then fast forward back to Memphis, and they said, yeah, that song Confunction. And we went around the room. Everybody just looked at each other and said, that's it. There's no vote. It was unanimous that we were going to call ourselves Confunction. So we actually went to the club the next night, and on the marquee it said Project Soul. We told the guy, his name was Mr. Bennett, and we told Mr. Bennett, you got to take that down. We changed our name. He said, well, nobody know nothing about no Confunction. He said, but they will. Just put it up there on the marquee. And he put it up on the marquee. This was like 20 minutes before showtime. He put it up there on the marquee, and our regular people start pouring in. And so we just got on the microphone, and we dressed so flamboyant. We were loud dressers, you know. And we got on the microphone. He said, after we start this show tonight, we will no longer be Project Soul. The name of this band is Con Funk Shun. Everybody went like, what? And by the end of the night, man, we had 900 people in a club that held 600. And it was off the chain. We had to play there every Wednesday night. And after about 2 months, we were solidified as Confunction.
How'd the Nightlighters feel about you taking the name? Were they honored, or?
We never, ever to this day, I never heard from them. And, you know, you would think after all these years and all these songs and all this, you know, recording, you would hear something. We never heard anything from them. So in 2015, we actually wrote a song and called as an answer to their song called Nightlighter. And we put that on the More Than Love LP. I would love to sit down with whoever the prominent members were one day and just thank them, just basically thank them for existing. Because they were a recording group. They were signed to RCA Records, and they had hit records. Their biggest hit was a song called KG, KJEE, KG. And if anybody listens to this, they may not recognize the name, but they know the tune because it was re-recorded as a disco record. But their big hit was KG, and it is a big. Everybody here, you go on your Alexas and, you know, go to Google and look at KG by the Nightlighters. And that's the one that goes da 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 da, big horn sound.
Yeah, and of course they were the band for New Birth. So
New Birth, yeah. They were New Birth. I think they were doing New Birth and the Moments that night. New Birth hadn't come around just yet. They were doing the Main Ingredients, not the Moments, the Main Ingredient. They were playing behind the Main Ingredient and doing their own music that night. But later on, yeah, they became the backup band for New Birth.
Interesting to me that both of the names that you guys had like genres in the title. You know, you had soul in the one and funk in the other.
Yeah. Then when we got Project Soul, it was all the rage. You know, we had a band called Natural Soul, and there was another one called Soul Incorporated. Everything had to have some kind of soul attached to it.
Soul Children,
Soul Children. So we finally got we had taken the Project Soul thing. And to my knowledge, no one has ever gotten that name. No one ever took it and did anything with it.
So how'd you feel about the first record? You know, I mean, your head was spinning getting a deal, and you must have been just, you know, pinching yourself actually putting together a record on a big label.
Well, our first record was a huge letdown. We had a 2-album deal, and our first record, self-titled, didn't yield any kind of a hit. I think we sold 30,000 copies. It didn't really do anything. Didn't really have a hit record off of it or anything. And the gentleman at Mercury, Charlie Fast, the guy who had actually saw us and signed us, he said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "We got another record to do." And he sent us out to California. We went back to California. We left Memphis and went out to California, and we've been playing clubs. You know, we were really disappointed we didn't have a hit. We started back playing clubs, and we had purchased this TAC recorder, 4-track, and just prior to going back to California to get in the studio to try to come up with another record, I heard this song by this group called Brick, and it was called Dazz Dazz, right? And in the middle of the song, they had a flute solo. And I said, you know what? I'm going to write something funky with a flute solo in it. So I had this recorder, and we went to this club called the Nairobi Lounge in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I remember setting up the TAC in the dressing room, and it was 4 channels, and you could plug directly into each channel. I plugged the guitar into one channel, and I just kind of made my own drums up on the strings of the guitar. And then I plugged in another channel, and I put up bass line, right? I plugged in another channel, and I put up the chords, right? And then I plugged in the 4th channel, and I just put the little thumping guitar, and I created the music. The second I created the music, I could hear the melody. By the time we got to Automat in San Francisco, I had written only one verse, right, up to Ffun, 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 and I didn't have the second verse, right? And the guy said, you don't really need it. Just sing the first verse twice. So we did the first verse. The second half of the first verse was Make It or Break It, Gotta Make You Mine. Then we did the horn break. Then we came back again, did the same thing all over again. Sent it to Mercury Records. They lost their minds. The record was number one in the nation.
Yeah, that's how I discovered you guys, like so many, and it was just such a great song because it was so funky, but also so catchy. It like bridged the gap of, catchiness for radio, but still being super funky.
Yeah, and it was a loose song, very loose. We were a very loose recording band. We played everything live, and we didn't just, if it felt good, that was the take. We're not going to, sit here and beat the horse to death and make it absolutely precise and perfect. And we started, and, we listened to some of the other groups, and that's exactly what they did. They played till everything was perfect. And Ffun, 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 Shake and Dance with Me, Chase Me were probably when I say loose, I mean, we just jammed. And if it felt good, we left it alone. That was it. We go overdub their vocals, and if it, and those 3 songs were very loose, very, there's, I wouldn't say mistakes, but there's some ill-timed things going on in those songs. And that's kind of what we were known for. Once Shake and Dance with Me hit, and it went gold, the album Love Shine went gold in 6 weeks. That became our recording technique. And we didn't really get super tight until we dropped Got to Be Enough. And that's when we started really tightening up. We started having horns that are dialed in. We actually had the Earth, Wind, and Fire horns play on it. And we had San Francisco Symphony Orchestra play on it. And we started getting really tight after that.
And so appropriate, the hit you had after Got to Be Enough was Too Tight.
Yep, that's right. Yep. So we were rolling, and it was weird, man, because we had this magic thing going ever since Ffun that we knew we were going to have a hit. We just knew it. When Ffun hit, we went in and I have to tell you the story of Shake and Dance with Me. Because there was a phone call made to the hotel, and they took a message, and we got the message that there was going to Ffun was on its way to being number 1. And they need a follow-up track. They need something to drop. They couldn't wait for us to go back and finish everything and then pick a single. They needed a track to come out that was going to be on the next album. But they couldn't wait for us to get off because we were touring. We were out, opening. We had like little 20-minute shows we were doing and killing them out there with Ffun. One day in Montgomery, Alabama, we were at a football game. We were watching the marching band play Ffun, Ffun, Ffun. That's how big a hit it was. The big marching band came out, and they played Ffun, Ffun, Ffun. And after Ffun, I left the stands, and I was walking back with this idea in my head that we got to come up with something else. And I know Felton, he was coming up with stuff, but it wasn't going to be nothing super funky like what people were looking for. And I'm walking back to the Holiday Inn, And I'm coming up on the intersection, and I could see the tour bus, which had that TAC recorder on it on the tour bus. And I'm walking up, and I ain't got no ideas. And all of a sudden, this guy pulls up with his windows down, and I hear this da 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 da, oh, honey, honey, da 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 da,
Sugar, sugar.
and I'm listening, and I'm going like, hey, right? It was in my head, right? I'm thinking, okay, that's kind of, I can do something with that.
You
So
funked
by
it
the
up.
time I got to the bus, my guitar was on the bus. I got on the bus, same thing. I plugged into the TAC and I started goofing around with these chords, right? And it had nothing to do with the exact chords that were in Sugar Sugar. But but the melodies of the two songs, you can sing both melodies over the top of both songs. So Sugar Sugar, if you can imagine the music, you can sing, hey, hey baby, da, 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 why you going that way? And you can just keep right on going. You can go, oh, sugar, oh, you can do them both together, and neither one of them have anything to do with each other. And when I figured out this chord progression and the little bridge, that's when I came up with the lyrics. And I just kind of poked fun at Sugar Sugar by the Archies. We went back to California and went to, I forgot, different Fur recording studio, different Fur. I don't know who the hell came up with that name. And we sat down and we thumped out Shake and Dance With Me and sent it to the people. It went nuts. So Fun, Fun, Fun was coming down the charts slowly, right? And Shake and Dance With Me going up the charts with a bullet, and they crisscross each other, which gave us time to finish the Love Shine album.
Wow. Yeah, because it came quick. It seemed like it came quick after Secrets, Love Shine. I mean, I don't even know if they were a year apart, but wow. So
we got a thing from record company congratulating us on going gold in 6 weeks with Love Shine. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that record was great. So Easy on there, and also Make It Last was a great ballad, and then the When the Feeling's Right was the one where you guys like really kind of stretched things out and got into some soloing, and
that was basically us marking time and eating up some vinyl, man, because we were touring so much we didn't have a chance to really write, and everybody looked at me to write what we needed. Felton had his finger on the trigger when it came to the ballads and all the chords, the chordal stuff. But the funk was all about me. Those first two albums, we knew we were on our way.
Mike, how did you develop your unique vocal approach? Because nobody sounded like you. I mean, I think you probably had some Sugarfoot influence in there somewhere, maybe.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. Maurice White, Earth, Wind, and Fire. It comes from being a copy band. Maurice White, anytime we did an Earth, Wind, and Fire song as a copy band, it was my job to sing the Maurice White parts. It was my job to sing the Sugarfoot parts. My job to sing the Teddy Pendergrass parts. And those kinds of things stick with you. And I was a song stylist. I never went to church and sung in the church and became a vocalist. I was more of a stylist. I'd grab hold of something if it was repetitious, and I'd hold on to it until I needed to change it. And that's kind of the way I was. And the whole idea of the owl and I really didn't do a lot of that until I was a solo artist. Larry Blackman had that, Cameo had that approach. We both got it from Sugarfoot and Maurice White, and it worked very well for us throughout our careers, and people really gravitated to it. A young man by the name of, they called him Sugar Bear, doing the butt. That guy jumped on it, and he wound up doing very well with it. So, but yeah, very unique sound has worked for me for a long time. And along the way, somewhere I learned how to sing.
But I didn't feel like you were really copying them so much. I mean, it was a little bit of it was more of an influence, because you had definitely your own sound to me in my ears.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
That's
a really
exactly
cool
what
sound.
Sugarfoot told me that. I actually spoke with him one time and sort of apologized. And we were both on the same label, by the way. We were both on Mercury Records. And he said, "Man, what you talking about? Man, you got your own thing, man. You sound great. You got your own thing." And that made me feel like $1,000,000. And I was like, wow. Yeah, so you got this, the dude gave me his blessing, you know. And I felt great after that. I feel like I was borrowing something from somebody, you know. And
Yeah.
it became quite apparent later on, you know. Got to Be Enough was a song that kind of made me think that hey, that's my sound right there. Two tracks playing them at the same time together. That's me. That's me right there. When by the time we got around the Love Train, then I was singing, but I've never been a singer. I was singing, and we say you sang with an A, sang. That's when you start talking about Charlie Wilson and Brian McKnight, and, you know, and all these cats, you know, riffers and cats that can really throw their voice around with it and do whatever they want. Well, no, I'll just go ahead and deliver the melody to make a hit, and I'm done.
Well, it's such a thrill to talk to you about this because Confunction is one of my all-time favorite bands, and you were the primary writer on most of my favorite songs by Confunction because you were the guy for the funk tracks. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah, you wrote most all of them, really, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. When you sit down and put them together and you look at it, and every now and then go to the mailbox, you got something in there waiting on you. You know, I didn't. Some of the stuff our bigger stuff came while I was just doodling. I wrote Too Tight sitting out at the pool in San Diego. Had this little thing called a porta studio. I could have been electrocuted out there in all that water, but I run a extension cord from the building out to where I was sitting in this pool chair, my guitar, and I sat there and I wrote Too Tight. And I was influenced by anything that had that groove to it, like Cheryl Lynn's "Got to Be Real" was really big, and not Earth, Wind and Fire, but I think it was the Emotions. You get the best of my love. Yeah. Whoa, whoa, you got the best of my love. Some right, some wrong. I'd pick up influences from whatever was hits out there. Very careful not, like I say, to copy anybody. But if it was a head bob and I could disguise it in a way that we could possibly have a hit, that's what we did.
Yeah, well, you did it in a way that was subtle and still your own thing, even with the sound too. Whereas a band like Bar-Kays more often sounded more directly like some of the groups they were copying, for example.
Yeah, they made a point of it. they didn't have no shame. They said, if anybody got a hit, we gonna have a hit.
Yeah, I think it wasn't with Spirit of Love with that record. I think that came before Touch, even though they're both 1980. Where you started incorporating a little bit of strings into stuff too, and I don't really remember that before.
Yeah, Spirit of Love, and a lot of we remembered that guy taught us Skip Scarborough, Jerry Peters, different people that we started to work with the larger names. The sophistication that they would put on our tracks. Got to Be Enough came back. It was a good song with just the rhythm section, but when we went down to LA and came back with the strings and horns on it, we heard it prior to being mixed, and we knew it. That was the first time we heard the strings and horns on it. And it went down there with just the rhythm section and vocals and came back like that. We knew it was a hit. It was like, man, this is insane. This is crazy. And then we just got the bug, put the strings and horns, and that became a sort of a signature for us. We put strings on everything. We had the budget. So we would just call up these contractors and say, man, we need strings on this song right here. And we get the whirl. And we just started going for it. It's Felton and I have toyed with. It's one of our dreams to actually do a concert with a symphony orchestra, or at the very least, an entire string section, I should say. Well, where we would play our normal show, and anything that had strings on it, these guys would play it. We'd have a conductor and everything.
That would be awesome.
I think we just got to I think it's already scored out. I think we just have to pick the right date, right, where we can really shine for an hour and highlight all of the songs that have strings in them.
Well, for me, the way you did it back then was so tasteful. You still kept the funk. You didn't, because adding strings, you risk kind of going to the disco kind of direction. You guys never did that, in my opinion.
We're going to do what we got to do to get a hit back in those days, like we're doing now. We're still recording, but we're going to do what we got to do to get the right hit and get things going on. And we'll be all right.
Let Me Put Love on Your Mind. Your guitar on that, just amazing. That's probably your biggest guitar spotlight with the band, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. That is. It's not very many recording times that I would get to shine. We usually hire outside players, but I got a chance. I had a guitar called an Olympic, and it had a high E on it. Not very many guitars are built with that. Later on down the road, they started putting it on. But I remember having this high E, and I did a run in there on the E string, and I ended it with the high note on the guitar. You got to be ready for that on stage, because now I got to reach for it.
You have to reach for that high E. It's it's a run on the E string, all on one string, and at the top of the guitar you hit the high E, where all the other guitars you have to bend that up like a Fender Strat. You have to bend to get that high E. Well, now they're building the guitars now, but my Olympic, man, it was like a piece of cake. It was just, man, there it was. The whole guitar was shifted about a 1/4 inch in that direction so that they could make room for that E. And that made it really easy to play. It was just, you could play up there in the top of the neck. It was great.
I saw some footage too, I think from Atlanta back then, live with you tearing into it. So cool to see that footage. I wish the whole show is available. I don't think it is, but I've seen clips.
Yeah.
And for me, that track was like maybe Isley Brothers influenced, but your guitar again did not sound like Ernie. You sounded like yourself.
Yeah. I think that, and it was funny, that particular footage that you're talking about, the Olympic looks like it's got LEDs on it. It was just the way the light was hitting it. And it just looked like it had LEDs on it. And I was like, okay, that's so cool. A couple of years later, the Olympics start putting LEDs on their guitar. It was just really weird. I said, somebody must have saw my guitar and decided they're going to put LEDs on it and didn't tell me about it.
Wow. So obviously when Love Train hit, that must have just been something else for you guys. Rejuvenated. You guys kept it going. I guess you had a hiatus probably in there somewhere between, I don't know, the late 80s and, you guys had some hiatus, right? But then you came back, and you came back before Love Train hit, but it hit after you guys were still back and doing it again.
Yeah, and it we had a little lull in the fight, as we say. I think we wound up. I think the Resurrection song, Love Train did not have it was not a single, so it was left in the album and purposely to sell the album. Touch, and I think right after not Touch, I think To the Max, one of those two albums, and right after that we had a kind of a thing to where we were going, okay, we didn't get the big hit this time, and we kind of fell back into going and playing the clubs, and we got hired to play in Tokyo at the Mugen Club one last time. And we were over there, we had finished the album, we had given the album to the record company, and then we took off, and we needed that album to hit, right? We're going to be in a lot of trouble. And we got over there and we're playing at the Mugen Club. I woke up one morning and we heard Baby I'm Hooked on the radio. And, it was all over the radio in Tokyo. And it was just, how in the heck did this happen? And of course, we called back and they said, yeah, we dropped Baby I'm Hooked. We knew they were going to drop it, but some kind of way it had spread like wildfire. And we were back again with Baby I'm Hooked. And of course, Electric Lady came after that. And then, of course, I'm Leaving Baby on that same album. That was, matter of fact, that's the first, I think that might have been the first album where we had 2 top 10 hits on the one album. And we were back again, back out doing our thing, back out on the trail. And you know, what can I say? I don't think we saw an end. I think the company more or less brought it to an end on their own. But by then, you know, what the heck? We had 7, 8 top 10 records. So we were going to get some. We were going to be working no matter what. And here we are to this day. After the last record played, last record we recorded back in the day, still the phone is ringing. We're still doing 30 dates a year.
Yeah. So what did you think the chances were of that back then, that you'd have that kind of longevity and that the songs would still be so beloved?
No, we took a break, and for me to go, I went solo, and it just kept going. You know, the hits just kept happening. I went solo. I teamed up with Club Nouveau for Prove My Love and Dinner for Two. And then we kept on with My Baby's House, and then Shoop Shoop and Should Have Been You. And it just, and next thing we know, my manager says, man, I need you guys to put Confunction together. I've got all this money that people want to do for New Year's Eve. And I said, okay. Brad Felton come up to one of my solo concerts. He came on stage and we did Got to Be Enough and Too Tight with my band. Sat down, had breakfast the next morning. Said, well, let's put it back together. We ain't looked back since.
What year was that now?
That was, oh my God, what year was that? 93, 94-ish.
Because you had a huge hit with To Prove My Love on your own, and you know that was funky too. And you had a lot of hits on your own too. So people, if they aren't aware of that, definitely need to go back and check those out too. How did it feel different to you being solo compared to being with the group?
Oh, that was real lonely, very lonely. You know, getting on a plane by yourself, going somewhere. You know, I finally got a road manager to travel with me, but that wasn't the same. And I can't say I disliked it, but I missed it. I actually wound up insisting that I bring a band. I just didn't like the whole idea of being out there by myself. I love having the hits and love the audience response, but at the end of the show, that's it. You go back to the hotel. There's no camaraderie. There's nobody to hang out with. There's nothing going on, and I was just tickled pink to reform Confunction and get it going again. Yeah,
as all of us were, for sure.
Yeah.
The some of the hits still kept coming, but for me, it was a little bit of a lull for you guys until To the Max came back with Love's Train on it and was another great front to back album. I felt you guys really put it together again, because Miss Got the Body was great, and that was just a really cool album. And I was so glad to see Love's Train revive, because it shouldn't have been forgotten. And it's so great for the new generation to get awokened, whichever is right, to that, and go back and check all of it out.
Yeah. And it was quite an experience for us. Quite an experience. It was a church going experience for us.
And I got you mentioned it, but Chase Me, one of my favorite songs for sure by the band. And I know you guys still kill it when you do that live too.
Oh yeah. We're blessed. We can do an hour and a half of pure hits. If you throw in the Michael Cooper songs with all the Confunction top 10s, you do an hour and a half of nothing but hits.
If you had to pick 2 or 3 favorites in the catalog, what would they be for you?
I would say Got to Be Enough would be my favorite Confunction song. And probably after that, it's a hard choice. It's a hard choice because naturally Love Train, but there's so many songs that the reason why you wrote them that was important. How they were recorded, that was important. And how they impacted and benefited you throughout your career, that was important. So that would make one song or the other a favorite. The one song that comes to mind was Got to Be Enough, just the way the song came together and the strings and the horns and the way it sounded and the way we felt about it. That was my favorite. And then Love Train being a savior song, that saved the album. We had no hit on that album, so that was a savior song. And then there's quite a few others. There's quite a few songs we call them B-sides, but there's quite a few songs that really was the one I did, I Promise You Love. That was never a hit, but the song was just haunting. The way it came about in the studio, the reason I wrote it, it's just one of my favorites. Promise You Love. And Juicy. There's a Latin groove called Juicy with Sheila E. playing all the percussion. That was just magical. It was magical when we recorded, and every time I hear it to this day, it just makes me turn the volume up.
Yeah, it's got that good falsetto going, and
yeah.
And then Confunkshunizeya too is one of my favorite grooves.
Yeah,
sure.
That song was written live at Bennett's Club Rosewood. We wrote that song on stage live, and so we hurried up and had to get that one recorded before we forgot it. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's like one of those things where it's so funky, but also it's got that earworm quality. It just stays in your head,
Yeah.
Confunkshunizeya.
Yeah.
And Got to Be Enough. One of the really cool things about that to me was the way you let it build. It was instrumental so long before the vocals come in.
Uh-huh.
You really establish them. A lot of songs are so quick to bring in the vocals, but you guys let it just kind of develop. That's partly what makes that song very cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you guys had 2 new songs last year, and do you have a forthcoming album as well coming?
Well, we got this monster coming up called the Smooth Jukebox. And the Smooth Jukebox is going to be just what it sounds like. Smooth music and absolutely funky. And it's got a surprise on there, but it's no longer a surprise because it's coming out. It's our next single. We're actually going to pay tribute to Silk Sonic, Bruno Mars, and Anderson .Paak by recording their #1 super hit, Leave the Door Open. It is the bomb. It is absolutely phenomenal recording. And that's going to be our next single. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where it's going to take us, but that's our next single.
Wow. That's cool.
They dropped Love Train 2 years ago. Now, we were planning to put it out on Valentine's Day, but we ran late. We had a tragedy. We lost one of our kids, Felton's daughter, Susanna, was tragically killed. And so it just put a stop to everything. And that's so we don't mind not having it out on Valentine's Day, but it's coming. Hopefully it'll come late March. And we're getting ready to run like fools. Everybody was like, what is up with these old guys? When they hear this, they're going to like, these old guys, what's going on with these dudes? It's gonna be something. I think you'll like it.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it, because you first had Text Me, then you had Smooth.
Yeah.
And now you'll have this one.
Yeah.
And Text Me was like the ballad, and then Smooth was more like a mid-tempo kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the sound is still unmistakable. The vocals and the horns, and it's just Confunction.
Well, you're gonna love this other one, man. I'm gonna when I send me a email when we get off, and I'll send you a copy of it just so you'll have it. You'll actually be the first to have it.
You said you got 30 dates coming up for 24?
It'll be more than 30 when it's over with. We've got about 25, and you could go to Confunction, actually Confunkshunizeya.com or Confunkshunizeya.com, and you can go down, run your finger down there. But by the time we get midsummer, we'll probably top about 30, 35, 40 dates.
Fantastic. And what can folks expect to come see you guys?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Man, we're gonna freight train. I call it just you will be freight trained. You will need to step on or off the tracks. If you want to get run over, just step on the tracks. 'Cause man, the love train is no joke. I mean, when people went from the first sound you hear, the first sound you hear on our show is a large freight train whistle. And my man, you better be ready.
All right. Well, we're ready. So we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Mike, for doing this and for bringing all the music all these years, man.
Oh, man, thank you guys for keeping the music playing and keeping us relevant and sticking with us. We love you guys out there. All peace, love, and happiness.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth in Rhythm. A big thank you goes out to our guest as well as to you, the viewer and listener. Also, much gratitude to Pleasure for supplying the show's funky opening and closing music. As a reminder, you can always access the complete list of linked shows by episode at funkandstuff.net. I urge you to support this program and receive the extra benefits along with that by subscribing to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube and sharing it with funk, R&B, and jazz lovers, joining Truth and Rhythm's membership program at Patreon, submitting a donation at funkandstuff.net, buying Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk book at Amazon, shopping at the Funky Things store for cool merchandise at funkandstuff.net, and linking through funkandstuff.net for all of your Amazon purchases. In addition, if you're an artist or anyone seeking proven, results-oriented professional marketing, PR, writing, or editing consultation or production, check out the media services section at funkandstuff.net. Also, I encourage you to drop me a line at scottg@funkandstuff.net. I love the feedback, suggestions, guest requests, appearance and sponsorship inquiries, and just talking about my favorite subject, groove-based music. For now, and as always, this is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibing to the rhythm of the one.